At last month's glitzy Shanghai Auto Show, held in the only significant car market in the world that's still growing, Nick Riley, the president of GM Asia Pacific, knew the questions would come. Still, he winced a bit when a Chinese journalist asked him what would happen to Detroit's fallen giant if it was forced by the U.S. government to declare bankruptcy. In China, bankruptcy means you're out of business, the journalist noted. Finished. Riley, who has heard a lot of this lately, patiently explained that in the U.S., bankruptcy is not necessarily the end of the road, but a chance to restructure decimated businesses and balance sheets. Many companies have emerged healthier after going through the court-supervised ringer, a fate that looks likelier for GM after the U.S. administration of President Barack Obama forced Chrysler into bankruptcy on April 30th. After establishing GM wasn't ready for the hearse, Riley not so subtly steered the conversation back to China, insisting that no matter what happens, it would be business as usual for him and his management team. That's because at the lowest moment in the history of one of America's iconic industrial companies, China is GM's parallel universe, a place where business couldn't be much better. Global sales for the auto industry as a whole are forecast to fall nearly 9% to 56 million light vehicles this year, according to market research firm CSM Worldwide. But in China, where consumers are still spending and the government is offering subsidies to small car buyers, sales are expected to grow to nearly 9 million vehicles. In the first quarter of 2009, China was the world's largest car market, overtaking the recession-racked U.S. for the first time. In China, the company is neck and neck with Volkswagen for the market share lead. 10 years after the first GM cars started rolling off the Chinese assembly lines. In April, GM set a record for monthly sales, 151,084 vehicles, a stunning 50% increase over April 2008 results, while GM plans to slash its U.S. workforce by 38%, 23,000 jobs, by 2011. It's hiring in China and expects to open a new factory there within the next few years. The work rules that strangled productivity for decades on many of GM's U.S. factory floors barely exist in China. Though GM China tightly guards data on labor costs, analysts conservatively estimate that wages and benefits per factory worker are less than a tenth of what they are in North America. Should GM, in order to become more competitive, export more cars from China to the U.S. and other markets at the inevitable loss of more UAW jobs? While that may make corporate sense, the UAW and its supporters could argue that a China-centric manufacturing strategy would defeat the very reason GM is being rescued in the first place. To preserve some of America's shrinking industrial base while propping up the economy, GM might one day find that it's possible to be too successful in China. Questions. At the Shanghai Auto Show in April 2009, what questions did GM's Asia Pacific president Nick Riley know would come? He knew that questions would come about GM's potential bankruptcy and how it would affect GM's business in China. According to Riley, what would bankruptcy, if it happened, allow the company to do? It would allow GM to restructure its decimated businesses and balance sheets. What have many U.S. companies done after going through bankruptcy? They have emerged healthier after going through the court-supervised ringer. What expression is used to describe China's market at GM's lowest point in history? GM's parallel universe is used. What is the Chinese government offering to Chinese small car buyers? It is offering subsidies to small car buyers. What does Riley establish about GM's business situation? He established that GM was not ready for the hearse. What did the Chinese market become for the first time in the first quarter of 2009? China became the world's largest car market, overtaking the recession-racked U.S. How does GM's market share compare to that of Volkswagen in China? They are neck and neck. How much of an increase in China sales did GM see compared with April 2008 sales? It increased 50% over April 2008 results. By how much will GM slash the U.S. workforce by 2011? It will slash its workforce by 38% or 23,000 jobs. What is GM planning to do in China? It's planning to open another factory within the next few years. According to this article, what has strangled productivity on U.S. factory floors and barely exists in China? Work rules strangle productivity in the U.S. How do labor and benefit costs in China compare to those in North America according to analysts? They are less than a tenth of what they are in North America. What is the main question that the author raises about GM's China plans? Should GM, in order to become more competitive, export more cars from China? Why has the government tried to rescue GM? To preserve some of America's shrinking industrial base while propping up the economy.